Okay, hello everybody. I would like to present to your attention the article by Fabian Hoffman. He is a Norwegian, and he is writing about Europe's new security environment, about a dramatic change in Europe's security landscape, lack of political leadership, and nuclear proliferation. I think it will be interesting for you to read. Mm, Make it a bit smaller. Okay. Europe Security Landscape by Fabian Hoffman. First and most importantly, Europe is facing a fundamental shift in its security landscape. From an academic perspective, it's worth emphasizing how extraordinary this is. Researchers often speculate and theorize about dramatic changes in the state's security environment and their impact on defense posture. Yet, in practice, especially over the past 30 years, such shifts have been rare. Europe, in particular, has been shielded from major disruptions thanks to steady economic growth, technological strength, strong alliances, and the absence of immediate existential threat in its neighborhood. All of that has now changed, unfortunately for the worse. Economic growth has stagnated. Europe has lost its technological edge in key areas. Its alliance with the United States is in disarray, and the very real existential threat has emerged in the form of a revisionist, imperialist Russia that may soon come to believe aggression and war are rewarded. And I think they already were shown that by Trump and his Trump crime family. Political leadership. Second, recognizing this dramatic shift is easy, and I would argue that virtually every European state now understands how much the security landscape has changed. The challenge is acting on it, especially at the scale required. This is where the real test begins. Poland's leadership saw this shift coming earlier than most and took preemptive action, even across different governments, meaning that the past several years there were elections and the government was changed to it's now other party at the head of the heading the government, but all these arrangements to strengthen Poland, to invest more in the armed forces, to buy quite a lot of new equipment. This rearmament program is really huge in Poland. So the change of government didn't affect that. Others are not only now starting to react, particularly as it becomes clear that the United States may not just ignore but even act against Europe's security interests. Denmark stands out, having launched an urgent military buildup. Denmark is really appeared. I cannot find the right word. I mean, it shows that it is really reliable and really quite insightful state. I cannot find the correct words. Okay. Macron's recent suggestions to raise France's defense budget to 5% of the GDP might also signal a shift, though, as always with him, it remains to be seen whether this is rhetoric or if concrete actions follow. Because Macron is a very flashy person. He is, he loves the show, and he does quite a lot of very very showy, like showmanly, I don't know, things just for show, and there are no all for the external appearance, but there is no substance inside of many of what he does. Others, however, have yet to respond appropriately. Germany being again the key negative example. But Germany is now in the midst of elections, and it is really difficult to expect them to do anything about that until they elected their parliament, and this parliament forms government, and then only then they can start shift their policies. Listen to the recent speeches from decision makers in Berlin, both in and outside the government. I don't get the sense that they share the urgency felt by some other European states. I think Merz from who is probably will be next chancellor. I think he understands. There is still no indication of a dramatic military buildup or substantial defense investment following American withdrawal from the continent. This lack of response is not due to fundamental unwillingness or incapacity within the military or defense industry to undertake an urgent buildup. The real issue is a lack of political will, which remains the biggest obstacle to bring European states to where they need to be militarily. We all know the saying, you don't go to war with the military you want, but with the military you have. These past few days have made it clear that the same applies to political leadership. You go to war with the politicians you have, not the ones you want. After all, elections have consequences. Yeah. Nuclear proliferation. Third, the past few days have seen renewed and so far the most direct calls for nuclear proliferation in Europe. Analysts and likely also decision makers in several European states have begun to recognize that their security environment could improve substantially if they had access to some form of nuclear deterrent. I largely agree. For the first time since the end of the Cold War, it is now time to have a serious discussion about whether nuclear arsenal in Europe should expand, both within existing nuclear weapon states and among others that do not yet possess nuclear weapons. Others were not getting their own nuclear weapons because they were protected by the so-called nuclear umbrella of United States. So United States were doing that for them in exchange for their refusal to pursue acquiring nuclear capability themselves. Okay, and it was good arrangement for both parties because nuclear armaments and they are costly. These programs are really, really costly, and many states who are not that big or they are not so that militaristic, they decided that they don't need to spend all this money. They can rely on United States for their protection, and instead this money that they could have spent for nuclear, they can spend on some social project, some welfare to their people. And they were happy to do that. And for politicians who are thinking in terms of election cycles, it is for them much better to bribe the voters right now and to show himself or themselves as good guys than to, spend this same money instead of bribing the voters directly, instead of undertaking several tens of years long program of nuclear production, of everything that has to do with nuclear armaments, of acquiring nuclear capability for their own country. It is a lengthy process, and a politician can not expect to see the end of this process during their tenure in office. But the removal of this nuclear umbrella shows that if you cannot rely on the United States, then the safest path to prevent what is happening today in Ukraine, so that it's not happening to your country, is to have nuclear capability. And then you will be not on the kids table, you will be at the adult table. You will be able to speak on the same level with the big guys. I mean, what Trump is doing, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't think that there are any thinking involved in what he's doing, because what he's doing is pushing other countries, European countries, for nuclear proliferation, because they cannot expect to be shielded from Russia by the nuclear umbrella of United States. Do you think that Russians don't invade, those Baltic states, that they think they cannot take them militarily? No, they think that they totally can. But they think that it might trigger some response from countries who have nuclear weapons. And Baltic states are in the same club with those big guys with big sticks. So it will be too risky to anger the older, bigger brothers who can wield such nuclear sticks. And Russia just didn't want to risk that. So if anybody has, after what is happening in Ukraine, who gave up after some really big pressure from Western countries and from Russia in 1994, we gave up our nuclear arsenal, which was third largest in the world. But even before that, during Kravchuk time, when in 1991 he became president of Ukraine, our first president, he gave up all tactical nukes. They were given up to Russia so Ukraine became independent in December of 1991. I think by the end of August 1992, all the tactical nukes were shipped to Russia without any agreement, without anything. What the Budapest memorandum is covering, only those that were in silos in these intercontinental ballistic missiles, which were installed in these silos and were on so-called боевое дежурство, on military duty, on combat duty. So they were actually ready to be launched to whatever they were aiming at, to Europe or to United States. So only those 400 something nuclear ballistic missiles that were in Ukraine, that were covered by Budapest Memorandum. But all the nukes that were before that were smaller, that were tactical warheads, they were shipped to Russia 2 years before. And also then we gave up our strategic bombers and missiles. Any missiles that are nuclear capable, including those old Ha-22 missiles which were missiles, anti-ship missiles, big, huge anti-ship missiles, like 7 meters long, and they were supposed to have a nuclear warhead, and they were carrier killers. So you lob this thing and it goes like 3 Machs and three I think it was 3 or maybe even faster, 3 times the speed of sound, or maybe even faster. They go to the American nuclear carrier and destroys with a nuclear blast. And now we gave them to Russia, and now Russia is killing our citizens with those same anti-ship missiles, but they are now launching it at land targets, and instead of nuclear warhead, they put 1,000 kilograms of conventional explosions there. So it is a huge blast, and quite a lot of damage is done. And when this type of missile goes into big apartment building, there are tens of killed, tens of murdered people, and hundreds of wounded. So it's really devastating. And this is the missiles that we were forced by Americans to give up to Russians. So what are that to the United States? And now they are, if what Trump and what is said about those negotiations about this mineral deal between Ukraine and United States are true, this is the direct violation of Budapest Memorandum. Now it is by United States, because there was a clause in this memorandum that no economic pressure or no economic coercion should be taking place, but by any parties that signed this memorandum. Meaning what is going on right now is a direct violation of Budapest Memorandum by United States. So right now we have two countries who is in direct violation: Russia and United States. What else? I mean, after what has happened to Ukraine, any other countries which is not covered by nuclear missile from United States, or if they are not NATO countries, they right now, European NATO countries should arrange for the same or similar covering, I mean nuclear umbrella, from two other countries who are nuclear capable, France and United Kingdom. They should extend their protection to all the rest of NATO countries, all the rest of European countries. Otherwise, the only other path for these countries to truly independence and to the true security is to launch their own nuclear program, either separately or in cooperation with some other countries. And for example, Israelis, they obtained their nuclear bomb, nuclear devices in cooperation with France and South Africa. Until recently, I remained skeptical of nuclear proliferation due to the immense costs and risk involved. Politically, it can lead to diplomatic isolation and economic hardship due to sanctions. Let's not make the mistake to believing that the international community would welcome nuclear weapons spreading in Europe. From the United States, Europe could probably, at best, expect acquiescence, but no support. In the worst case, the United States would join in on imposing sanctions and other political measures to punish Europe. This is also the risk of preemptive Russian strike on European nuclear infrastructure to prevent proliferation. While legally debatable, Russia could attempt to justify such an action under international law. Nuclear non-proliferation can be considered customary international law, meaning that even if European states withdrew from the non-proliferation treaty, and Ukraine should withdraw from it immediately, I think, one could argue that proliferation remains illegal. In addition, precedents for preemptive strikes against nuclear programs exist. The international community largely accepted Israeli counter-proliferation strikes on Iraqi in 1981 and Syrian 2013 nuclear facilities. This suggests that Russia might find justification for such an attack and even gain diplomatic backing within the UN, United Nations. None of these obstacles means that nuclear proliferation should be ruled out outright. As Europe's new security reality takes shape, the utility of more independent nuclear deterrence and stronger French and British nuclear arsenals becomes increasingly clear. At this point, a serious cost-benefit analysis is necessary that takes into account both the advantages and potential drawbacks of nuclear proliferation in Europe. I think that there is no other option left. If United States withdraw their nuclear umbrella from Europe, Europe should construct their own. And there shouldn't be only two countries that are allowed to have nukes in Europe. I mean, all the other states have the same rights to have this nuclear. When they were part of non-proliferation, I mean, when they were signing this non-proliferation agreement, they were one circumstances. Now, these circumstances different. They no longer are protected by United States nuclear umbrella. Even if such an analysis does not lead to the launch of new nuclear programs, creating a credible threat of nuclear proliferation could still serve as strategic leverage, complicating decision-making in both the United States and Russia. In my opinion, this in itself could be beneficial for Europe. So this was the article from Fabian Hoffman, quite interesting author on the Substack. The link to the article will be in the description. If you would like, you may subscribe to Fabian Hoffman because he is an interesting analyst, and I like Substack quite much because there are quite a lot of people with interesting opinions who are writing there. So, and I will be finding articles and will be sharing it with you. So if you would like to see something of this kind in the future, please subscribe, give me a like. And then thank you for watching. And until next time, goodbye and Slava Ukraini.